We're back. Thanks so much for joining us for Dragonblade Authors Unplugged. I was sorry we missed last week, but I'm so glad that we're back this week. We're actually recording on a Tuesday for Friday release, so it is a brand new year, and there's lots and lots of good stuff going on at Dragonblade. And the authors we have with us today are Bianca Blythe, we have Fil Reid, and Emily Murdoch. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
So, Bianca, your book actually came out last week, the week that we missed chat. So, could you tell us a little bit about your book? And I think the last time we talked, you were in Hawaii too. So, I'm very curious about where you are today.
I'm actually home in California, so I can't travel all the time, which is fine. It's nice to be back and be back in my routine. Yeah, so I just released You've Got an Earl, which is the second book in my Determined Debutante series, which is about three sisters who are all debuting at the same time. And then, unfortunately, their mother, their widowed mother, is a bit scandalous. And
she's the one with the naked painting.
Exactly. She takes a lover who takes who does naked paintings of her that are somehow they get out, they get released, which is obviously a big problem for these three debutantes who have one really chance to find someone. So the book is about the youngest sister, Sabrina, who's always had a crush on a certain Earl, and he, meanwhile, thinks that he asked his good friend, Sebastian, to find him like a fake, not lover, but just a fake love interest that will make his aunt, who's very eager that he gets married, that will make her not press so hard because he will worry that he will marry this maybe somewhat inappropriate person. So he finds this woman in the library, and he thinks they're going to just get into a naughty scene to shock his aunt, and he starts undressing her, and they
oh my goodness,
just a bit risky, oh my goodness. And she thinks, oh, he's had a crush on me too. And so that's where the story starts.
Oh, we couldn't do that kind of thing in Regency.
I mean, he thinks it's all, that this is an actress and everything, and he's not going to, do too much. It's just to look a bit scandalous when he knows his aunt is going to come down. But yeah. Anyway, that is the start of the book. So mistaken identity plays a role, certainly. Fake relationships, yeah.
Oh my goodness! Oh, I didn't think we were allowed to do that in Regency. So this one is she's the youngest sister of the. Then there were three sisters, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It's one of my favorite tropes, fake relationship. Oh, so good.
Fun, right? I like it.
Yeah, but I kind of feel for her, because if she had a crush on him, and now he better be a really good guy by the end of this.
Yeah.
There's a redemption arc that's pretty deep there that
Right. Yeah.
And I'm gonna need him to do some good stuff. So that sounds like so much fun. And that one came out last week, so that one is out and available now. And then Fil, your book comes out the day we're recording, actually. So today is actually the debut of your very first book ever, and you are our Right Stuff contest winner from last time, correct?
Yeah.
And this is the Dragon Ring is the first book in the Guinevere series. Is that correct?
It is, yes. It's about a modern young woman. She's about 24. Who goes to scatter her father's ashes on Glastonbury Tor, which is the centre of Arthurian mythology in the UK. And her father has been an Arthurian scholar, so she knows all about Arthurian mythology. And when she's up there on the tour, she finds a ring inside the ruined church tower. That's the only thing that's left on it's a big hill, a tour. And on the top of it is this ruined tower. And she picks it up.
Which you should never do.
Well, no. Always do.
She nobly thinks she can find someone to, give it to the police and someone will come and claim it. So she picks it up and it snatches her back into the Dark Ages. And she's actually she doesn't find out for a little while. She's very cross. And of course, she doesn't believe that she's back in the Dark Ages for quite some time. She, as you would, she keeps trying to find reasons for the things she discovers. First of all, she thinks she's in a historical reenactment that is a little bit too realistic, because she meets people someone's got a scar and a missing eye, and an old lady wants to hang her. So she meets all these very aggressive characters that she thinks are just taking it a little bit too far and being a little bit too enthusiastic in their roles. Anyway, she ends up being taken about 10 miles away as a hill called South Cadbury Castle. And it's reputed in local legend to have been Camelot, or not Camelot, because Camelot is not the early medieval name for it. It's got another name. I call it Din Cadden, which means Cadden Fortress, the fortress of Cadden. And she gets taken there, and she discovers that she's been kidnapped back in time by Merlin for a special reason. He wants her to marry Prince Arthur, who obviously is going to be King Arthur eventually. But the only way he's going to get to be King Arthur is if he marries Gwen. And her name is, handily, she's called Guinevere, Gwen, because her father was an Arthurian scholar, and they had twin children, and he named his twins Arthur and Guinevere. So
she's got a brother.
Yes, she has, but he's not in the story. He's on the other side of the world doing his own thing because he's quite a selfish person, and you never get to meet him. But she's in a chicken and an egg situation because she discovers that she has been named after herself, because she is destined to be Queen Guinevere. And so she was named after her actual self. And she's very confused by it because she knows lots and lots of the legends. So I don't know how familiar you would be with the Arthurian legend, but one of the particular legends...
Not Rodgers and Hammerstein.
He is destined to die at the Battle of Camlan. And Gwen knows this. And I don't want to give too much of the story away, but she's constantly worried, because she can't get back, that the things she does will affect the history. Because also, she doesn't know what's history and what's legend. So she's in a kind of quandary the entire time, and she's very stressed by it. Plus, she wants to get back to her boyfriend in the modern world.
And plumbing. I would want to get back to plumbing.
Yeah. So
toothpaste.
Sorry?
And toothpaste. All the things you don't think you'll miss.
Yeah. Charcoal and mint. And a bucket in the corner to pee in. So, and of course, when she actually meets Arthur, he's a bit unreconstructed and not very... He's not into girl power, put it that way.
That's a lovely way to say that.
And he looks at her. She's met him for about half an hour or so, and he looks her up and down, and he says, "Well, you have good childbearing hips."
Charmer.
Yeah, well, he is actually quite charming, but to begin with, he's not, because he doesn't want to marry her any more than she wants to marry him, and he's a bit cross with Merlin, who brought her back.
Always Merlin that messes things up. He gets around everywhere.
Yeah, he's not an old greybeard either. He's young. I mean, like Arthur, he's similar age to Arthur, who's quite young, about Gwen's age, and he's a warrior as well. And he's got the second sight, so his magic is that he can see into the future. And he managed to bring Gwen back through some kind of tear in time, so he has actually got a bit of magic. I don't want to put too much magic in it because I think it makes it unrealistic. I mean, if being snatched back in time is not unrealistic,
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm willing suspension of disbelief with you. I'll go that far easily. Go that far.
Anyway, she gets more and more she gets deeper and deeper into problems as she goes through, and further away from getting back to her old world.
So there are 3 books in your series. Is that right? Do they all follow the same? Do they all follow Guinevere and Arthur?
There's actually 6. I've got a contract for 3, but there are 6, and I'm working on book 5 at the moment because the
Oh my
Arthurian
goodness, you fast.
the Arthurian legend there's so much in it.
Yeah.
So the first 3 books only actually cover 3 years, and I thought, well, I'm going to have to jump forward a bit for the later books because otherwise it's going to be 20 years. There'll be 20 books. So book 2. So book 1 is 6 weeks. Book 2 is about 9 months, 10 months, something like that. It's almost another year. Book 3 is another year after that. But then I had to leap forward because I wanted to put things in. And it does continue to... there are lots of other people in it. For example, do you know the story of Tristan and Isolde?
Mm-hmm.
As an Arthurian legend. Well, very interestingly, if you go to a place called Foy, which is in Cornwall, you can visit something called the Tristan Stone. And the Tristan Stone has written on it in Latin, "Here lies Tristan, the son of what's he called? Marcus Cunimorus." And he is. So that is an actual tangible link to an Arthurian legend.
Wow.
Because Tristan is one of the knights. I mean, there's no knights in my story.
That's magic enough on its own.
Yeah, I've been and stood next to it. It's lovely.
That's magic enough on its own. Well, that's very exciting. So I'm anxious to see what happens with the rest of the books, and also to have a more realistic telling of the Arthurian legend. I know the romanticized one. So awesome.
There's no Lancelot. It's fun.
What about the Mew?
What about who? Oh, Nimue. Oh, yes, she's definitely in it, but not quite a while. And Morgana, Morgause, Mudrout, that's Mordred, Kay, all those people are in it.
Yeah, I loved Marion Zimmer Bradley's the This of Avalon one too. So, but again, romanticized telling. So.
Oh, and one of the ones I enjoyed putting in is Gildas, because Gildas was a real 6th century monk who wrote just after the Arthurian period.
And now Emily is very excited about that.
So full disclosure, I have an MA in medieval studies. So this is speaking my language so much.
I worked on the 12 battles of Nennius. I've been using Nennius's 12 battles for the battles in Arthur's life. I know they rhyme. And I know they're really not true.
Some of the most exciting historical artifacts rhyme. Like even in the 1200s, historians were still writing like stories of like shipwrecks and battles in rhyme because they were like, this is a much easier way to explain what's happened. It's more memorable and people will get more interested in it. I think we need to bring that back. I would like all future historical textbooks in England to be in rhyming couplets. I think that's only fair. I think we'd all remember a lot of it a lot better.
Yeah, you
can kind of sing it to yourself, and if you can sing it to yourself, you stand a much better chance of remembering it, I think.
Well, if you read my books, Emily, you will meet Gildas, and you will find out why he doesn't mention Arthur in his book.
Okay, all right. And straight after this, I've got to one-click both your books because I've been a little bit in a writing cave for the last few weeks. So I need to get that library scene. That sounds so incredibly hot. Well, you know what I'll be doing before I go to bed tonight? Reading that book.
So, Emily, your book is the 5th book in the Governess Bureau. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Governess of Unusual Experiences?
She is indeed.
So what are the unusual experiences?
Well, I mean, that's where we've got to start, isn't it? So I'm going to dial it back a little bit. So for readers who have been following the Governess Bureau, you can kind of put your fingers in your ears or go grab a cup of tea. But if you haven't been following it, that's fine. It's a series that kind of interlinks, but you can just read this book on its own. But to give you a bit of background for the series, Miss Vivian Clark has created the Governess Bureau to give governesses to the nobility of England and Ireland. It's got to be the very best. You've got to have special skills. You've got to have an impeccable reputation. And you mustn't fall in love. And unfortunately for Miss Vivian Clark, her governesses have some trouble with that third element of the rule. So we're in book 5 now, and Vivian Clark is getting a little bit anxious because over the last 3 years we've had 4 marriages, and she's tried to hush them up and she's tried to keep them quiet, and all she needs now is respectability and calm and a safe pair of hands. So she goes to one of her most trusted governesses, Miss Rachel Herriot. That would be fine, except that she has woken up with no memories from the last 10 years. So Rachel has no idea that she's a governess. She's got no idea what the Governess Bureau is, and she's got no idea what she's been doing for the last 10 years, which is rather inconvenient. She has a conversation with Miss Clark, which is the first chapter of the book, and they agree that essentially the best way for her to recuperate is to go back to what she knows. So she's sent off to a very quiet, very calm, one-child house to be a governess. Unfortunately, it just so happens that at that home is Mr. Timothy Astor, who's very mysterious. He's frequently absent from his sister's home and no one knows where he goes. And he does have a rather inconvenient habit of kissing Rachel passionately in corridors before an introduction. Because Timothy knows exactly who Rachel is, but she has no memory of him at all. And that's how we start. So it's very, I mean...
Stealing kisses like willy-nilly.
Yeah, well, but from his perspective...
So how has she lost her memory?
Pardon?
How has she lost her memory?
Well, you'll have to read
Has she had a blow to the head or something?
No.
Oh.
You've got to read the book. I can't just tell you. No, she's essentially wakes up from a fever in London and has no idea how she got there, and no
What's
idea
it called
what she's doing. A governess of unusual experience.
I'm
And now,
writing that down.
the trouble is, of course, for Rachel, is that over the last few years of being a governess, she's picked up a few skills which she has no memory of ever gaining. So she finds herself able to play chess and able to speak French, and she has no memory of gaining these skills. And Timothy, of course, is very astonished because he's not heard from her for the last 6 months. And so he's had no idea that she's been unwell, no idea that she's lost her memory, and suddenly realizes that they're in a rather precarious position because he knows her own secrets, but she doesn't know anything about the last 10 years.
Oh.
So there's this very interesting kind of tango between the two of them where she very quickly, pulled into a corridor and passionate kissing suggests you know each other. It's a suggestion. And so she very quickly clocks that he knows exactly what she's been doing for the last 10 years. And so she has to try and wheedle out of him the truth of who she is and what she's been doing, where she's been all this time, why she has certain skills that you may not expect a governess to have. And he very much does not want to tell her. And that's kind of the story.
I think I might have to read that.
Well, I love amnesia. Amnesia is a trope for me that I love in contemporary romance. I read it a lot in contemporary romance. I love the interplay between knowledge of yourself and a lack of knowledge of yourself, and this drive to work out who to trust because you don't have any background on the people around you, depending on how far back the amnesia goes. But I don't read it that often in historical. I don't know if that's because medicine is so much more primitive, depending on how far back you're going. And Rachel kind of... I don't get this very often. A lot of authors go, oh, the characters just walked into my life. I don't get that very often, but she did. And she was incredibly irritable all the time because she doesn't know what's going on. And she's trying to be this very prim and proper governess, but she's permanently frustrated and irritated that no one's telling her the truth. Or are they? Or are they not? And so I kind of had, for Rachel's book, I kind of had this moment where I just had to kind of let the words kind of flow. And unfortunately, or fortunately, Mr. Astor is just as infuriating because he quite clearly knows what's going on and he absolutely refuses to say anything.
So does he kiss her when he knows she can't remember, or does he think she can remember when he kisses her?
So she turns up at his sister's house when he's visiting, and he thinks, "Oh my goodness, I haven't seen you for 6 months. This is fantastic." So he grabs her in the hall, pulls her into the servants' corridor, kisses her incredibly passionately. Rachel pushes him away and is like, "What do you think you're doing?" And Timothy's like, it's fine. No one else is here. They don't know. We don't have to tell them we know each other. And she's like, we do not know each other. And that's when he's like, okay, might need to dial back a bit. And he then lies, which is wrong, and says, "Oh, my mistake. I thought you were someone else. We don't know each other." And Rachel's not.
Oh,
she goes, "No. We clearly do. Gentlemen do not pull governesses into corridors for secret assignations and kissing if they don't know each other." So I kind of liked playing with this idea of two people who were permanently on edge, permanently irritable, and not trusting each other an inch.
And you have this lovely identity essence thing right out front too, you know.
Yeah, like chapter 1, Rachel's sitting in the Governess Bureau waiting room and she's looking around and she's like, do I know these people? Are we friends? Did we train together? Have I ever worked with them? I don't know. Yeah. And I think that's quite frightening in a way. And I don't want to draw it too close to the pandemic but you know, a lot of people have started jobs remotely and never meet their co-workers. And then they go to meet them and they think, gosh, you're not who I expected. You don't look like I expected. You don't sound like it. Or even just this very strange, like, we've spoken every day for the last 6 months and now I'm seeing you face to face. And this disconnect between, like, you know, Rachel feels that she trusts him, but she couldn't pull him out of a lineup. And that very odd kind of disconnect, you know, I found really fascinating. And I mean, I have no official plans, but Catherine, Violetta, if you're listening, I'd love to do more Amnesia because I loved writing this, and I'm really hoping that people enjoy reading it.
Well, it sounds like so much fun. And you have one more book in the Governess Bureau.
One more book, so A Governess of Wise Years, and the pre-order is up. It's not coming out until March. I'm going to say March. I'm going to say the end of March. I think it's the end of March. And I won't...
it's the 29th of March.
So 29th of March. I won't talk about it too much because that is to come in a future video. All I will say is in the 6th and final book, Miss Vivian Clark has run out of options. And she has to take on...
Nobody's going to hire governesses if they keep getting married off.
No one's going to hire from her. And she has one last-ditch attempt to save the Governess Bureau and her own reputation. That's all I'll say.
I hope it's her love affair.
Well, it's what I would call a sweet but spicy. So like it's second chance romance. So it's someone from her past who she never expected.
I love those.
But it's also very steamy because they're older, they're wiser, they know what they want now. You know, they're not willing to compromise, which brings a lot of confrontation and conflict. But I think that's why I like governesses. You know, this is why I wrote the series in the first place. I like very intelligent, very determined women in historicals because as far back as you go, they're there. They may not get much of a chance to do anything, but they're there. And I think governesses are fun because they are educated and they do know what they're worth and they do know how they should be treated. And they have a little bit of power, not loads, but a little bit. And I think that's quite fun.
Oh, and kind of that place between servant and family too.
Yeah,
you know, so
I was literally, I'm in the middle of watching Jane Eyre, the Timothy Dalton Jane Eyre. Please tell me you guys have seen the Timothy Dalton Jane Eyre. It is a masterpiece. I don't understand how someone went, we need a slightly unattractive man to play Rochester. What's Tim doing at the moment? Timothy Dalton's free, right? Doesn't make any sense. But I was literally having this conversation with my husband yesterday. You know, governesses are this, you know, we're educated, but we can't use that education. And we're well born, but we're not in good society. And we're servants, but we have power. And, you know, they have an honorific. They always miss whatever, unlike a lot of servants who didn't have that. You know, they're kind of part of the family and the children really love and trust them, but they can't often, not always, but often dine with the family, but they're there. It's this really nebulous space. And I think what I'm finding with the more books that I write, because I think this is novel 19, I think.
Yeah, that would make sense.
The more I write, the more I think actually it's these nebulous, uncomfortable, liminal, unusual situations which make me the most excited as an author. And I think the three of us have kind of proved as readers, you know, Bianca, your story of, you know, is this a plan that we're both in on, or does one of us think actually the plan is completely different to the other one? You know, that's a really,
and the other one of us better be a nice guy by the end.
Right, and that's a really exciting space. And again, with Phil's, like, is this reality? Am I dreaming? Was I knocked on the head? Is this a big joke? What's going on? It's that I don't know what's going on. I don't know who to trust. I don't know who you are or why you think I'm going to marry you. I love that space as a reader. And so that's what I try to write.
It's very much fun. I have to try and figure out how to get out of this sunlight because I'm going blind here. Oh, wait, that's better.
There we go. See, Phil and I, I'm so glad to have another Brit. Oh, no offense, Bianca, but there's a lot of Americans in Dragonblade, and having another Brit, I think Phil and I worked out we're kind of equal sides of Bristol or equal sides of Bath. We're relatively close for Brits.
Whereabouts from Bath are you then?
So I'm the Bristol side.
Yeah. Whereabouts though? In a village or a town?
In a village. That's all I'll say for a video that will go out into the internet.
There's a line outside Emily's house of people that would like to speak with her.
It's my face on a placard doing this.
I think we're about 60 miles from Bath. But when we went on our boat, it took us 4 weeks to get there.
I can't imagine living on a boat. That's so. Would you ever consider writing a historical based on a canal boat?
I'm not sure because I don't think the sort of people that lived on canal boats lend themselves to historical romance. But I did think about writing a murder mystery because a couple of years ago we felt like we were in an episode of Inspector Morse, or what's the other one called? Lewis, that's it. Because we had several drownings in the canal.
Oh my goodness.
The canal killer. I mean, really, really close. 50 yards away. There were three drownings.
We'll have to ask Catherine if we're going to do like a historical mystery line.
Yeah,
so I can see that being really popular.
You can put a romance in as well. A romance can't. You've got a mystery in yours, haven't you? So
yeah, I guess so.
A mystery.
Mary Lancaster's Crime and Punishment, I think, has more mystery too. And E.L. Johnson's. Is it E.L. Johnson? I don't want to get that wrong. Strangled Servant is coming out, and that's a mystery too. So there are definite leanings that way.
Yeah.
So how long have you lived on the boat, Phil?
10 years this year.
That's a long time. What's the very best part for those of us who only get to go on boats for holidays for very brief periods of time?
What did you ask, sorry?
What's the very best part about living on the boat?
Being able to go wherever you want. If we don't like somewhere, we can just up sticks and move. We tend to go out all summer long if we can. Although not been able to do so much moving about because of COVID, because we've been a bit concerned about it, especially the first year. But hopefully we will this summer go out for a good number of months in the summer and just go, might come to Bath.
Just turn up. I love it.
Yeah, we moored at Darlington Wharf. Sorry?
Without the placard of Emily's face on it.
Just my face. I can't think of anything worse.
Yeah. So actually, I won't say where we are either in that case. Same reason.
Safety first, kids. Safety first.
So what's the worst part about living on a boat?
Oh, the fact that you have to go and empty your toilet.
Oh, that's
well, you have a huge. Yeah, getting better.
A little too medieval.
Yeah, you have a huge tank on the boat, but when it fills up, you have to go around and go find a pump out and pump it out. And that's just a bit of a nuisance, especially when you're out, because you have to work out where the next pump out is or the next water. It lasts quite a long time, several weeks. You don't have to do it very often. But if you're out cruising, you do have to know where the water is, because the water does tend to run out if you're not careful. There's lots of water. There's lots of water points you can go to. The Canal and River Trust lay on free water. And free L-sands as well. I don't know, you probably don't know what an L-san is. It's a chemical toilet, so you can have one of them as well if you want to. So it's a standby. But I mean, people say, "Are you warm enough?" Yes, it's the warmest we've ever been. Very easy on a boat, and it's a big boat. It's 70 feet long and 11 feet wide.
Oh my goodness!
So it's big. It's like an apartment, really.
I was going to say, I've lived in flats smaller than that.
Oh, I
It's
have
got 2 bedrooms. We've got our own generator, so we never ever run out of electricity. If, for example, there's a power, we're on shore power at the moment, and if there's a power cut, it just automatically goes to our batteries, and then we can turn on the generator, and we're fine, which is an advantage.
Wow. Oh, that sounds exciting. Well, lots of times when we have these chats, we talk about writing, and I'm not going to ask Emily because every time I do, she makes me feel bad.
No, I just talk too much. I get like monologue-y.
Because she writes like these huge synopsises and outlines, and she knows everything, where everything's going to go, and she's got sentences, and it just makes me feel like I need to do better with my life. But I'm curious, Phil, since you're so far down in your series, do you write to an outline, or do you start writing and see where you end up, or do you have the construct of the legend? Obviously,
I'm a pantser. I basically know roughly what's going to happen in the book. Like, there'll be a particular thing that's going to happen, and then I just sit down and write, and I've no idea how I'm going to get there. I just end up there. So I'm just a pantser. However, for book 6, so I'm nearly at the end of book 5. Book 6 is going to be the last book. It's going to be called Avalon, and I've got so many characters now because about 20 years has passed. So it would have done by book 6. So all the characters in it, there's young people who've grown up. I've got to tie off all the ends. So I think I might actually have to write down a little bit of a plan for book 6, which would be very useful, so I don't forget someone.
Bianca, do you write to an outline, or do you pants?
Oh, I think it changes every time I write a book. The book will need different things. Yeah.
Do you have a preference? Do you find that one is easier than the other, or is it just what the book needs?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm going to be very organized, I'm going to plot everything, but it does take me a very long time to plot and to figure everything out. So I think maybe what I'm most comfortable with is just to write maybe the first 3 chapters, and then after that, when I know who the characters are a bit, and I'll base it around, some tropes that I like, then at that point to sort of sketch some of the rest in at that point. Yeah.
How do you cope, Bianca, with not having been? Well, have you been to England first?
I have. I lived in Staffordshire for 6 months. I was an intern at Keele, and then I also Keele University, and then I also lived for over 4 years in Eastbourne, and I was working in a castle there. The medieval castle.
Which castle?
So, Hurstmonceux.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a red brick moated castle. So
It's pretty.
It is beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. So I was on the 2nd floor, sort of like the servants' quarters, with like a tiny window. But it was great. There were tons of weddings there, so I would look out into the courtyard, and there would be a harp playing, and it's like, oh, this is so lovely.
Did you do lots of research while you were living in England, or do you wish now you could go and do it now?
I wish now that I could go back, but now it's difficult to get into the country and everything. But unfortunately, I wasn't writing regencies when I was working there. But I was taking lots of students around. I was like the activities person, so I did get to travel with them and see different things for 4 years. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. You spent more time in the castle than I have, and I grew up here, so.
I used to work at not at Highclere Castle. I worked at Highclere Stud because I've worked with horses, which is where Downton Abbey was filmed at Highclere Castle. So I've been in Highclere Castle. I've been in Downton Abbey.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Oh, that's not a real castle. Just a big house.
It counts. It's so pretty. Yeah.
Awesome. Ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I really appreciate it. This was fantastic, and I'm very grateful that you took the time to be with us. I'll make sure that I put the links to all of your books in the chat, So if you don't have the books yet, you should get them, and you'll have just a whole weekend full of variety of reading. And I'm very curious about the library scene as well.
Yes,
And
we're
also,
all going to go in one click back.
library scene, and also now I know never to pick up rings. I'm not gonna I was pretty sure about that. You don't take the mummy's eye out of the when you dig. You don't take the mummy's eye out, and you don't pick up rings because it never works the way you think it's gonna. So,
or if you do pick up a ring, you take your own toothpaste with you.
Unless there's enough toothpaste in the world. Ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I really appreciate it. For everybody else, we will see you back here same time next week. And make sure that you guys have the links to all the books in the so you can find them. Thanks again.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
You, bye.